Hello everyone, welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. Betty and myself, Marv, we're here as your host, and we're going to take a look at Egypt again this evening, and we'll, or today, whatever time you happen to be watching this. But you know,
evening and day,
evening and day and morning,
night.
yeah. The show is on all over the time. But that's so that you have the chance to catch it at your convenience. But you know, Betty, you and I were talking a little bit before we went on the air with this show, and that is that we're talking about, you know, the travel agents and the travel agency business. And we have to tell you that Adventures Travel Club television show and Adventures Travel Club is not a travel agency as such. We deal with group travel, and we do get calls from time to time say, hey, can you book me on a flight to Hawaii? Well, we don't really do that type of thing, but we could refer you to people that do. In fact, we do want to salute all of those hardworking people that work in all of the travel agencies, and they do have a tough job, don't they, Betty?
Yes, we do.
We just said we want a travel agency, and you said yes, we do.
Yeah, but I do that.
I know.
We do. It's tough.
It is really tough.
And we need some praise for what we do.
So that's what you're getting.
Thank you.
That's what we're getting tonight. We know that we have a lot of travel agents that do watch the show, and so we do salute you because we know how difficult it is. A job it is, and especially in this particular day and age.
So. I went to a seminar yesterday with a lot of travel agents, and we were commiserating with each other about some of the things that come up and go down, and
not the easiest business in the world, is it?
It's a very stressful business.
And it sounds like to people who are out there, and you see these ads every now and then, learn to be a travel agent. That is such a glorious thing, but
glamorous. It is fun. It's
well,
fun.
It can be fun, but like you say, it's very stressful.
It's stressful.
And it takes a good personality, I think, to be able to work in that business.
Yeah, you're right. But
Okay.
we have such nice people going with us, that it never really is a problem.
That's great.
Never is a problem.
We hope that will
Marv,
always
we're
continue.
going to have a little bit of a different show tonight,
That's
aren't
right.
we? Huh?
Well, I was expecting some other films on Egypt, and they did not arrive. So, but I want to keep the momentum going because the last 2 weeks we've been showing you Egypt, and I was able to get a hold of this tape that was done some time ago. You'll notice that the moderator in it is wearing bell-bottom trousers, so it may date it. Right, and it's sort of deals with one of the Catholic Relief societies. So we don't mean this to be a religious thing because that's not the essence of the trips that we're taking. It is when we do the Holy Land trip, of course, but our other trips are more of a secular nature. So I wanted, though, to show you other scenes of Egypt, and then hopefully next week I'll have those other tapes by that time, because we want to remind you that we are going to Egypt in October, and we have an exciting trip. We're going to go to Alexandria, we're going to Cairo, we're going to be in the Cairo Museum, we're going to see the Sphinx, we're going to see the pyramids, we're going to get on a ship, and we're going to go up the Nile River, and we're going to go to Luxor, to Aswan, to Abu Simba.
To him.
I know all those
him.
places now, huh? Great.
Actually, what we did, we put a nickel in and wound him up, and he's just about to go down. But this isn't really the kind of a show that we would ordinarily show you, because this is not. We're more of the fun thing, but it's always good to see both sides of the country you're going to.
That's why we want to show you some more scenes of Egypt. Now, speaking of other trips that we have, we are going to go to Greece in September.
September the 8th, we're
8th.
going to Greece, and we're going to do classical Greece. Then we're going to, we're going to start in Istanbul. Come down Istanbul and go to...
down the coast of Turkey.
Down the coast of Turkey. So we'll go to all of the main places in Turkey right along the coast. And then we go to Ephesus, Kusadasi, go to not to Patmos, we go to the little island there and fly back over to Athens, and then do classical Greece, going to Delphi.
That's great. We're running out of time.
Oh, dear.
Where else are we going? Going to the Holy Land.
Going to the Holy Land November 9th.
Egypt and Rome is also included in this particular trip. We're also taking a Fun on Wheels, which is going to be in June. We're going to Zion National Park, Grand Canyon. We're going to Las Vegas and to Laughlin. Anyway, we have more information on all that. Yeah. Give Betty a call at 488-744-3. For more information, right? So right now, though, what do you say? Let's go to Egypt and take a look at some more scenery there. Okay?
Egypt is the gift of the Nile, and the Nile is the gift of God. Therefore, we are all the children of God. So say the traditions of this ancient land, a land blessed by perpetual sunshine and nourished by the eternal river.
I am Andy Koval. As you can see from these pharaohs, we're in Egypt. I'm the director of Catholic Relief Services program in Egypt, and I'd like to take you on a tour, starting here, the Temple of Karnak located on the Nile. Follow the Nile through Upper and Lower Egypt to show you not only Egypt, but what CRS is doing.
This is Cairo, modern capital of the Arab Republic of Egypt, bustling, expanding metropolis of 10 million souls. Chicago on the Nile, and the home of the headquarters of Catholic Relief Services in Egypt.
Give us an update on what's happening on.
All CRS activity in Egypt is directed and coordinated from this Cairo office. But the real key to the vitality of the CRS program is that staff workers spend much of their time away from here, in personal contact with farmers, with community leaders, with local officials, with the people they serve, building strong working partnerships for cooperative action.
Competent, capable staff.
Maintaining personal contact with people means following the Nile. For along its banks, 99% of Egypt's population cling to a life that the great river alone makes possible. Flowing 4,000 miles northward to the sea from its mountain and rainforest sources, the world's longest river descends into the desert lowlands for its last 700 miles, cutting through the barren, rainless waste, reclaiming from the vast Sahara a tiny strip of fertile garden, a slender green ribbon of a country, 600 miles long and barely 12 miles wide. Not until the last 100 miles of its journey to the Mediterranean does the river burst its narrow course to form the fertile delta, which fans out to a width of 100 miles. Without the Nile, there would be only desert. Without the Nile, there would have been no great Egyptian civilization at the dawn of history. Without the Nile, there would be no colossal monuments here to attest to the genius of ancient man.
This is the courtyard between the first and the second gates of the great Temple of Karnak, the temple of the god of Ammon, and the area of the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. This temple is one of the greatest of the masterpieces of ancient Egypt's architecture. One of the challenges trying to help out in any country is first trying to learn from the history of that country who the people are and from where they come. And it's only once we really know the people that we can effectively try to help them.
In Egypt, history is everywhere. The cult of the dead and the bone-dry climate have combined to preserve thousands of mementos of life as it was lived in the time of the great pharaohs, as long as 5,000 years ago. Life that for the ancient peasant was strikingly similar in many ways to the life of the poor Egyptian farmer today.
This is the hyper-style of the Temple of Karnak, the temple of the three gods of Thebes, Amun, Hamsuset, and Moon. And these columns depict the area of the offering. The offerings were prepared in this part, and the agricultural produce presented here by the pharaoh to the priests, who then took it into the inner temple. So on these columns, you can go back into ancient Egypt and see depicted here the lifestyle, the cycles that made for the production in agriculture that led to these gifts that are being offered to the gods.
Not far from Karnak is the tomb of Mena, a nobleman who served his pharaoh as a royal tax official. Thanks to Egypt's low humidity, the vivid wall paintings are extraordinarily well preserved after more than 3,000 years.
Here in the tomb of Mena in the Valley of the Nobles at Luxor, we see on these walls depictions of life in ancient Egypt, showing the agricultural cycles, from the harvesting to the threshing to the winnowing of wheat, using means that we still see in the fields of Egypt today.
In Egypt today, this primitive method of threshing grain with sticks is still used by poor sharecropping farmers. Others, somewhat better off, use the norag, a sled-like thresher dating back to pharaonic times. Pulled by cattle, its knife-like rotating discs chop the grain to crack the hulls. This elderly farmer, following an even more ancient tradition, simply uses his donkey's hooves to accomplish the same task. Round and round they go, under the blazing Egyptian sun, from dawn to dusk, day after day after day. Ask him what he earns from this labor. He will answer, my daily bread. Using these primitive methods, it will take one small farmer 9 full days to thresh and winnow his meager sorghum crop. This machine does the same job in 1 hour. It was developed for Catholic relief services by this man, Ahmed Bojet. Born in Egypt, son of a small farmer, educated in engineering at Louisiana State University, he returned to his homeland with only one goal: to help ease the terrible burden carried by the poor Egyptian farmer.
I made this machine based on a lot of ideas picked up from all over the world to meet the needs of the Egyptian farmer. The Egyptian farmer usually used a couple of bullocks or a donkey to do this process, or even beforehand, as the ancient Egyptians, they used sticks and hand beat all the grain out of it. Now we give him this machine that will chop the straw to feed his animals, decrease his losses on grain, and does the job faster. We are trying to feed this machine only to very small farmers that will do their own plots, their own work, their own fields, and do their neighbor's field. We hope that if one farmer could get to own one of these machines, he could serve the whole community around him. We have worked with this machine on a lot of crops. We've worked with it on sorghum, and now as you see it, we're working on it on wheat. We've used it on lentils, on chickpeas, and on clover. The farmers think it's a good machine. We just are always adding new modifications to meet with the different crops being planted in an area where very little mechanization has really entered.
CRS has sponsored the development of this low-cost machine and has formed a partnership with these farmers and the Agricultural Bank of Egypt to secure interest-free loans for the purchase of the CRS multi-cropper.
We CRS take the risk, and small farmers can gain access to credit so as to buy this machine of ours. And I think that's been a major breakthrough. I'm very proud of what we have done here?
Since the completion of the Aswan High Dam in 1970, the Nile flows even more constant, and the threat of prolonged drought has been eliminated. Still, the modern Egyptian farmer daily faces the same problem as his ancient ancestors: how to get the abundant water from the river level up to the ditches which irrigate his fields. In most cases, the solutions are the same as in Pharaonic times. This is the Sakeah, or the Persian wheel. The oxen plod perpetually round and round, supplying power to lift the water scooped up in clay jugs tied to the wheel. As picturesque as this may be, it is not very efficient by modern standards. This fulcrum lifting device, the ancient shadoo, is even slower and requires manpower that could be better used elsewhere. Realizing that the farmer needs his threshing machine only 5 months of the year, Ahmed Boujet devised a pump that could be driven by the 10-horsepower engine of the multicropper, thus putting it to use for the other 7 months. This modern technology, adapted to local needs, is helping to convert the small Egyptian farm from 1 crop to 2 crops per year, an enormous economic gain for the farmer. And CRS has been the guiding spirit in this agricultural revolution. Bestowing the blessing of water upon a desert land qualified the sacred Nile as giver of all life in ancient Egypt. But the mighty river provided another ingredient essential to the development of a great civilization: transportation, communication among the many settlements strung out like beads along a 700-mile necklace. The fortunate phenomenon of opposing winds and current greatly facilitated river traffic. Since the strong Nile current flows constantly seaward from south to north, barges could drift easily downstream from Aswan to Alexandria. And since the prevailing winds blew faithfully from north to south, huge sails were hoisted to carry the boats back upstream against the current. It was a wondrous gift of nature that made the Nile history's first interstate highway. But if the Nile unifies Egypt, it can also divide, acting as a barrier separating communities on its opposite banks. Most of the major cities and agricultural centers of the Middle Nile are on the wider west bank. Where there is no bridge or ferry, farmers on the narrow east bank are denied easy access to their markets, to schools, to medical services and other essentials. Such was the case near Abu Teeg in the district of Asyut.
The ferry boat that we see moving away is the last element in a complex project of communications linking up 2 county seats, or 2 district seats, that were separated by the Nile, and in between was a very large island of 1,600 acres.
Without a ferry, the farmers of the island and El Salim on the east bank were forced to truck their produce 25 miles north to a bridge crossing and then another 25 miles south to get to Abu Teeg, a mere 2 miles from home as the crow flies.
When the people were asked by their district chairman what they wanted most, they said a linkage to the community across the other side of the Nile, because that's where our markets are.
And so they raised money from their own community to get the project started. Their district governor was so impressed that he contributed the major funding. Finally, CRS was able to supply the additional revenues needed to make the dream a reality.
There's a local initiative. The people raise enough money to indicate how sincerely that local initiative represents their wanting something developmentally important for them. Their local government coming up and matching that effort, and then CRS being the third partner as a minority financer. We try to hold to the principle that the people and the government themselves are going to come up with a major form of funding, and we'll come up with a minor form of funding.
The ferry is always busy now. It has brought the farmers of Sa'el Salim 50 miles closer to their markets in Abu Tig, and it has made neighbors and schoolmates of people once permanently separated by the river. The tiny, busy bee is a very big help to the farmer, producing honey and increasing the productivity of certain crops through pollination. The output of cotton, clover, beans, and potatoes is increased 15 to 20% with the help of bees. Of course, honeybees have been kept in Egypt for 6,000 years, but the traditional mud hives are not efficient. With these modern wooden hives, a farmer can increase his honey production more than tenfold. In the district of Minia, where cotton is a major crop, CRS has joined in partnership with another private agency, the Social Service Organization of the Coptic Christian Church. The purpose of this cooperative beekeeping venture is to help the small farmer increase his income from the sale of high-grade honey, while significantly improving his crop production per acre. This pilot project has tremendous potential to benefit Egypt's agriculture. As the Nile flows northward past Cairo, beginning the last leg of its long pilgrimage to the sea, it takes us into the fertile delta known as Lower Egypt. Here, amid verdant fields where water is plentiful and the mild climate hospitable to creatures great and small, another tiny friend of man toils and spins to serve its master. Near the city of Zagazik, CRS is helping to revive and improve the age-old arts of silkworm rearing and silk thread reeling by providing top-quality hybrid silkworms to a small pilot group of farm families. Carefully selected hybrid worms imported from China spin up to 1,500 meters of silk filament per cocoon versus the 800 meters produced by non-hybrid worms. These highly skilled farm women perform the very difficult task of reeling the brittle hair-like filaments into continuous silk thread. Since breeding and reeling are village and home-based activities, women and young girls are able to contribute substantially to the family income. Women are also the principals in the carpet weaving project, where oriental rugs of great value and astounding beauty are produced by this dazzling combination of skill, coordination, and unbroken concentration.
These carpets here are made entirely of silk and made of extremely fine quality work. These young girls here will take on this particular carpet, which is 6 feet by 9 inches, 1 year to complete it. Working at the pace they're working at, they'll be able to complete but 1 centimeter per day, or it will take them, in other words, 3 days just to do 1 inch. So you can well see where they would take an entire year for 1 carpet. Now, what they're chanting is the numbers according to the design that they have in front of them. Each design is broken up into a square centimeter, and they chant out the colors and the number of threads of that color are needed. So you have one person who does the major directing of the color, and then the others responding once they've completed and are ready to move on to another color. The income that these carpets bring are substantial, which is an important goal of what CRS activities in Egypt are. We are trying to give people enough money to break the vicious circle of subsistence and to really improve themselves and their situation. other very, very nice thing is that, as you can well see, women are involved in this process. And women and young girls form then an important part of the increase in the family income. And with women then having some control over that income, it can be used to improve the health of their children and the health of the mother.
Cooperation among the farm families, the local Minister of Agriculture, and Catholic Relief Services produce this beautiful silk rug. Its intricately interwoven design is symbolic of the spirit of partnership that exists between CRS and the Egyptian people.
I want to thank you all for a very constructive meeting. We've just been discussing the contribution of the Egyptian government at the national level and at the local level to the various projects that CRS has in Egypt. I feel this is one of the basics that we require in each of the projects, that there is sharing. In all cases, we feel that a project is valid if the local participation is in both in kind and in cash, if that is matched by the government, and where we come in as a minority share. In this journey along the banks of the Nile, we have given you but a sampling of some of the CRS activities in Egypt. During the last 23 consecutive years that we have carried out assistance programs here in Egypt, our focus has been on the poor urban and rural dweller. Our approach has been to look along the themes of small is beautiful to those interventions that can most effectively help the poor, that are tailored to their needs. In the future, we intend to be faithful to those goals.
And so when I walk through the fields and people come up to me and say to myself or to my staff, "You're from Catholic Relief Services," we know you're one of the sincere ones. This makes it all worthwhile.
Farmers have expressed their appreciation that a foreign organization should be coming from across the world to find this little village and this one particular small farmer, to help him improve his life and to improve his neighbors' lives.